everyone. Today I wanted to talk about an issue that I faced in the lead up to the launch of Captivating Kelp Forests, and this was something that was really stressful, a lot of sleepless nights, and I needed to spend a lot of time on finding a resolution as well. So it was not just the sort of worry, it was also the admin task that arose, and it was to do with the printing of the book. Now, I wanted to share this with you. I like to share the experience of being an indie author, and that's sometimes the more stressful side of things. So in this video, what I want to do is go through what happened, to then talk about how I found a resolution to this problem, because it did all get sorted, and then finish off with some lessons learned. So what will I do differently in the future to sort of protect against these kinds of things causing a problem, these unforeseen hitches, because realistically that's what it was. So if we rewind back to just before Christmas, Captivating Kelp Forests scheduled to be launched, I think it was the 16th of February at the Isle of Wight Story Festival. It's all, you know, booked in, we're getting everything organised for it. And I, just before Christmas, had finished working through the digitisation of the images, because the way that I work with Rhiannon Thomas, the illustrator that I've published a few books with recently, she sends me the original artwork. I then scan it, and I then check that the digital version looks the same as the original version. So I'd spent 3 months, I think, doing that, and also formatting the book, putting everything together. I'd had a round of edits, so there'd been a whole process that had gone on in the preceding months. And I got to the point where I was like, yeah, I think this is all good. I'm ready to see how this book looks. Now, at this point, I was feeling really confident that maybe I might need one more test print, or words gone, book proof, after this one. So it might be one more little attempt with a few tweaks, but I was pretty confident that this was going to be good. This is not the first time that I've done this. This is the 4th book that I've published this way. So using the same printer, the same editing software. I know how the images should look on screen and how that compares to the images in person. So I was feeling pretty confident about it. I put in the order for the proof. The proof arrived just after Christmas, in the sort of Christmas New Year interim. And it was okay. The interior was pretty much spot on. Can't remember if, yeah, I did some very minor things to the interior, but it was pretty much there. But the cover was really, really green, which was odd because I can see the comparison between, you know, what I'm seeing on the screen of the cover and other images that have a similar colour palette, but it had come out really green. So anyway, I think, okay, that's fine, I can edit that. I'll do one more round. Hopefully then the second proof will look, you know, spot on, everything will be good. We'll order the big bulk order. Fine, no problem. Possibly might need more than one go, just in case it's not quite right, but I'm still pretty confident. This book looks good. If you look back at my unboxing video, I am like, yeah, this is pretty good. The cover's a bit green. It looks all right. I'm quite happy. So that's where I was at. So I did those edits and ordered another proof. Each time you order a proof, there is a week, it will depend who you're working with. So I use the printing company Mix'em. So from when you order, it's typically about a week for that book to arrive. So I wait for the book. It arrives and it doesn't look quite right. And the thing that flagged for me is that there are elements of the book. In fact, I'm going to go and grab it for you so I can illustrate what I mean. Right, this will be easier with book in hand. So these elements here, this ribbon here and the text, the colour of the text, everything about those two elements had not changed. So the image behind it all, I had altered the colour to make it more blue, because this was very, very green. But this and this had not changed. When I got that second proof, those parts looked really different. I think they looked quite yellowy. I forget exactly, there were a lot of proofs. But anyway, those didn't match. And I'm looking at the cover and thinking, well, if these parts, if that ribbon and the text look a different colour, this obviously has a slightly different colour palette. And then when I'm altering things on the laptop, is this really representative, this test print that I have here? So I went back to mix them and sort of said, I'm not very happy, it doesn't quite look right. And they said, well, there can be some variation, and also potentially, as the palette has changed, that has an impact on the way that it prints. Would you like a free, reprint? So I said, yes, please, that would be great, so I can see it again and see if it prints the same a second time. So while I was waiting for the reprint to arrive, I also ordered another book proof or test print. People use different words, but proof. That one had a few more minor changes, because what I wanted to see was whether, what I was hoping would happen is that their reprint and the one that I had now ordered, they would match with that first one or with the second one, and I could see there was some consistency. That's what I wanted to see. I knew that the small changes I was making needed to be done. And at the same time, I also ordered a proof of Secret Seagrass Meadows. Now, that book came out in 2022, but I'd run out. And I wanted to make some very small changes. So I wanted to have written in it that it was printed on sustainably sourced paper, because it is. And there was something else. There was a link that I wanted to shorten the URL of. So that's all there was, but it's always advisable to do a test print in case you've managed to save the files weirdly or done something odd. So I ordered that as well. So I have all these books coming, and I'm still feeling pretty good. At this point, I've got probably about 6 weeks until the launch. A little bit worried, but I'm expecting all these books to come and be fine, so that I can then order the bulk print. I've still got acres of time, no problem. So these books arrive and they are all different. So their reprint was really, really dark. So everything about it, but again, it's really obvious when you look at this part, because that should be the same, was all very, very dark, like it had been put on like high contrast. The redone proofs, so the Secret Seagrass Meadows and the one with the tweaks, looked like they'd been printed on a printer that had run out of ink. They were really, or like they'd been left out in the sun. They looked really faded. And honestly, I just panicked, because launching this book on time at the Isle of Wight Festival with everything we had planned, and being professional about that, having the books ready and high quality, and that was really important. Obviously, I really didn't want to turn around to Natural England and the festival organisers and be like, sorry, I don't have any books. And I was just starting to think, oh my goodness, like I'm looking at the calendar and thinking, with the lead time each time, we are now getting closer and closer. And what do I do? Because at this point, I'm thinking, well, if every single test print that I've ordered looks different, then do I trust how a longer print run will come out? So this is where I have to start resolving the situation. And big thanks to my husband, who kind of sat down and went, right, okay, look, how about this? How about that? He's very logical in that way, while I was kind of going, I don't know what to do. So he really helped in this situation with, right, these are the things that we could do. So number one, I continued to talk to the customer service at Mixam. I ended up sending back all those proofs. That's why I can't show them to you. I'd love to be able to go, look at the difference, but I can't, I don't have them. I posted them back because until this point I'd been sending photos and they were saying we can't really see a difference. So I posted those off to them. Again, there's a wait time. They were being very helpful. This is in no way anything derogatory against them. This is just these things happen. It was a problem. It needed fixing. These things can come up, right? So from their perspective, it will depend on what machine is used, what settings there are, you know, how things are being passed through quality control, like a whole load of stuff. It is just one of those things that had happened. So proofs get sent back off to them, and I'm thinking, okay, I need a backup plan, because if I have to go with a different printer, then, you know, I've got to get the ball rolling, because we are now really, really short on time, and I really don't want to be trying to find a printer at this point. So I spoke to a bunch of indie authors that I know. We have a WhatsApp group, and I was just like, who do you use? Who do you print with? What are my options? Two things that make it slightly complicated. One is that I really wanted the paper stock to be sustainable, so FSC. I can't register these as FSC certified because that certification can't be passed to me, but the printer uses FSC paper. So I wanted that, and obviously I needed a price that was going to work. So I started investigating lots of different printers. They were really lovely. Shout out to, I'm going to have to look up one of them because I can't remember what they were called, but Meadows, absolutely lovely, really, really helpful. They were a little too expensive, but definitely check out Meadows. They were really, really nice. And the other one, I'm going to have to Google, found it, Ashley House. They were also so lovely. You know, I just phoned Meadows and Ashley House, a couple of others as well. Those were the standout ones, and kind of said, this is what's happened. Are you going to be able to do this quickly? You know, could you get this turnaround? Can you do the sustainable thing? Can you do the print options that I want? And can I have a quote ASAP? They were so, so helpful. Both of them turned out a little bit too expensive, but other than that, absolutely would have gone with either of those companies. Both really, really lovely. I probably got information from about 5 print companies so that I had options if I needed to, you know, panic print somehow. And I had all of their turnaround times, all the different options mapped out. I also uploaded the book to Book Vault, and next week's video is going to be about Book Vault, what they offer, how they compare. Book Vault's quality is actually pretty much the same as Offset, which is one of the things I'll talk about next week. I don't want to go into too much detail in this video. Look out for that one. But I did the title setup. I think it's £25 or something to set the title up, and ordered a proof through them, because another option was that I could order some copies through them. Wouldn't have the FSC thing, but again, I was just setting up different options, a proof through you, information from you, all of the different options mapped out so that at any point I could just press go on one of them. At the same time, I also had to think about the quantities, because I was planning to print 1,000 so that I had the lower cost because of the volume. But realistically, what I needed was copies to sell at the launch. So I thought, well, as long as I can get, let's say, 50 copies, so I've got some for pre-orders, I've got some for the launch, that's probably enough. At least I have books, you know, I can just order 50 through whoever, and Book Vault actually was the one that was looking like my emergency option, because the other printers, they can't really do those low volumes at an affordable rate. So I will order 50, and at least I've got books. Slight spanner in the works is that part of the deal with this book series is that 200 copies get distributed locally via Natural England. So I wouldn't have had those 200 copies at the launch. However, I'd been keeping Natural England updated on all of this. They knew what was going on, and there was the possibility that I'd have to send those 200 copies on later. Yeah, that kind of was a slight complication. But even if I'd have ordered 250, just so that I had the books I needed and worry about the big bulk order later, that's where I was kind of at, because I was worried about the consistency with Mixam. I had these unknown printers again, there were price issues as well, where I had no idea how their books would come out, and I could be starting this whole process again. So what I needed was just all the options. So that's where I was at. Then what happened is I got, Mixon came back to me. They said, yes, we can see your problem. We're going to do you another test print, you know, we're going to make notes to say, please look out for the sort of colourway. We can see what your issue is, and so on. And they were really, really helpful. They issued another test print. At this point, of course, I suddenly spot an error on the front cover, something that probably nobody else in a million years would ever see. But once I'd seen it, I was never going to unsee it. So I then, this is what makes my husband crazy, because I just can't leave it alone. I'm like a scab picker. I'm like, no, I must do the things. I then ordered one more book proof through Mixam with that change. In fact, that's when I ordered the proof from Book Vault as well, because I used the same fix. So I had the proof coming from Book Vault, I had the proof coming from Mixam with the new, slightly tweaked front cover. Basically, I'd over-edited an area of it and hadn't noticed and needed to fix it. And because the colour had gone crazy and I just hadn't spotted it. And I also had this reprint coming from Mixam. When all those books arrived, this is like a month, yeah, it was about a month before launch. Got all these books and they all looked the same. So that then gave me, okay, these are consistent. Even the Book Vault one looked the same. They all looked identical. So at this point, what I did was I went, okay, we don't need to panic about the Book Vault one. We have time. We can still order through them if we have to. I ordered 50 through Mixam. I was like, I'll order 50. We'll see if those look okay, because I just needed to rebuild my confidence that what had happened was just one of those things. And, you know, 50 was something I could deal with. So, and it meant I had books. It meant I could fulfill those pre-orders. It meant that I could just breathe because there were books to sell at the launch. So I ordered those 50. They arrived, they were fine. They were absolutely fine. So I breathed a sigh of relief. Everything was back to normal. I had the print quality that I expected. I'm still ready with that Book Vault one, ready to press go if I needed some for any kind of reason. But I have books in my house. Fantastic. So at that point, I then felt confident because I'd had all of those different things all at the same to then order the 1,000, safe in the knowledge that even if those 1,000 were awful, that was something I could deal with the customer service, who are really helpful. But I still had books ready for the launch, so it was all okay. The 1,000 arrived really not that long before launch. I feel like it was maybe 10 days before or something, but because a larger order takes slightly longer, and also the delivery got delayed, and there was a whole thing where you don't get told about the delivery for sure, like you get an estimate, but you don't get told until the day before. And then it turned out it wasn't the day I thought, and I was actually really busy. And then so it arrived via DPD. They do have other options, and DPD didn't tell me. The driver was so lovely, but there was an issue with the machine and she hadn't been able to tell me what time she was coming. So that was a whole thing where I was trying to contact everyone I knew going, I've got 2,000 books, because Secret Seagrass Meadows as well. And I might not be in and I don't know what to do. But I was in, it was all fine. They arrived. I opened the boxes. Honestly, the rush of just like, it's okay. I have all these books. I have a house full of books and everything's fine and they look brilliant. I cannot tell you. And that was the point where I felt like I could enjoy things again, because from the workload in September when I received the illustrations, and I also was working a lot, teaching, things just didn't mash up very well. That insane workload that I had for a few months. Then there were a few issues around the formatting. There's always stuff that I had to tackle that also pushed things on. And then this printing issue. that made what had been a super relaxed, everything will be fine, we've got ages, into, oh my God, will I have books? So yeah, once the books were in the house, it was like, okay, and everything was fine. So after that long rambly, this is what happened. Here's to kind of summarize the steps I took, the things I put in place to tackle this, because it's not impossible that you might face some kind of printing issue, whether it's around quality, whether the company you're using goes bust. And I know people these things have happened to, whether there's a political issue that means there's issues with, you know, paper or ink or whatever, that happens. You know, there's all sorts of stuff that you just can't predict that could happen. And having all that stuff in place is really helpful. So to summarise what I did, I continued to work with the customer service with Mixam. If I'd have just dropped it and, you know, just gone, I'm not using them, I mean, apart from it just being quite reactionary, I wouldn't have got to that point where I did resolve it. Mixam are, as I say, the customer service are great. They're also really affordable, and they have those environmental standards that I was looking for. So I still wanted to work with them, and I wanted to work through this issue. And we did. And as I say, this is nothing derogatory towards them. It is just one of those things that happens. But as I say, if I'd have just sort of panicked and pulled the plug, then that option was gone, and that option that I had already worked so far towards would have been gone. So I think it was important that I did continue to try and resolve that with them, and actually that's the road that proved fruitful. And I have many, many books in my house, and they're all a lovely quality, and I'm very happy with them. I also investigated other printers. I would say have those printers already in your awareness. So for me, I did already know Meadows. I didn't know the others, but know who they are, how to contact them, some information about them, just in case. Maybe even have some quotes so you have a rough idea how they work, would you use them, and all of these kinds of things. No harm in it. And as I say, Meadows were lovely, so were Ashley House. Both really, really nice, would recommend. Just a tad more expensive than Mixam. Yeah, I did that. So I investigated other options, and as I say, numerous of them. Those were just the standout ones. And I also worked with Book Vault. So I think for me, that was a really comforting insurance policy, that I knew Book Vault were reliable. I knew that, you know, it was kind of all ready to go. I could use it. I had the proof. So it was just ready to order. The only thing with Book Vault, they do have quite a long lead time sometimes, and it changes. So be aware, don't leave it too late if you're ordering emergency books through them, because sometimes their lead time might be too long for you to do that. But I was keeping an eye on that. So having that as an alternative as well. So I had options. Whether things would work out through Mixam, they did. Other printers, Book Vault, they were all my options. I also was still communicating with Natural England, because imagine had I've just said a few days before the launch, oh, by the way, all this stuff has been going on for the last 2 or 3 months. I haven't mentioned it. Sorry, there's no books, it's not happening. I felt it was far better to be honest and say there are some issues, I am working through it, I do have alternatives. There is a possibility I may not have the 200 ready for the distribution. You will get them. But just to keep you abreast of what's going on, I felt that was important. I also used my resources of the other indie authors I know, and do make sure that you have that team of people that you can just kind of go to. You know, for me, obviously they're in the UK, they, you know, and they work similarly, they use printers and order in bulk, so I can go to them and say, have you faced this? Who do you print through? What did you do? You have those people who get it, and actually they were so lovely in messaging me and being like, it's okay, everything's going to be fine, you're doing really well, how are you? That was really helpful. Your support network in all things in life is just vital. So if you don't have that group, make it. Seriously, find some local authors, invite them to be in a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group or something, and you know, it's good stuff. It's really worth having. Just to finish up though, some lessons learned, some takeaways that I will learn, and hopefully I'm gifting them to you as my experience from this whole thing. Here is what I have learned. Number one, just always have as much time as possible. The unforeseen happens a lot, I have discovered in my indie publishing journey. I have had so many unforeseen issues that push everything back. We thought we had lots of time. Secret Seagrass Meadows was turned around in 6 months. Captivating Kelp Forests took more than a year. And yet somehow things were still right up against the finish line. That was because there were issues along the way. That each time was like, it's fine, there's loads of time. And then it all translated when I then had issues with the printing to, this is crazy. The more time, the better. Just give yourself acres. If you are setting the publication date, obviously mine was sort of dependent on a team, give yourself so much time, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. 6 months would be lovely. You can chill out, got all the time in the world. I had probably about maybe 10 weeks, 8 weeks for that printing bit. Unpleasant. Definitely 3 months as a minimum, just in case. And I bet you if I had that 3 months, the book would be perfect and I'd have it here just sitting around in boxes. But hey, that's the way it goes. So more time, number one, and that's all being built into the planning for the next in this series, which we think will be 2025. Not just because of that, but lots and lots of reasons. Anyway, so lots of time, number one takeaway message. Number two is to have your options, to know some alternatives ready, because I had to frantically search those out. So just know your alternatives. Number three, remember that you have the option to just order a few books. I had in my head, but I'm ordering 1,000. I need 1,000 because of the price. I need it. My husband was like, but 50 at a higher price is fine. Like, you're not sending those to the avenues where you need that lower price point. Don't worry about it. What you need is books. He had a point. So remember, sometimes you need to just do that little order so you can tackle the next few weeks. The bulk order can come later. Finally, have a look at Book Vault. I will make a video about them next week. I'm not going to be using them as standard, but they are very, very good. Just take a look at them. Know they exist, know what they do. A good alternative. So yeah, definitely worth it. And as I say, have your team, have your network of authors around you. But yeah, my main take-home messages were more time and know your options. They were the biggest things. And I think now that I've navigated this and, managed to sort of keep my sanity during it, because I was really worried, because I want to do a good job. I feel confident that I will not panic so much if this happens again, and feel that I know how to navigate this. If something happens, go, right, what are all of my options? Let's explore them. Let's get ready in case we need to, take that step. It's okay. But if I'd have sat back, we wouldn't have had a book, Also, don't order so many proofs. I'm a little bit I made a change, order one. That's a thing. Anyway, I really hope that that's helpful. I hope these things don't happen, but just remember that there are always things you didn't plan. So have your options, look into all your different alternatives. Say for me, printing through Mixam, it works. I'm happy with it. It's all good. But just knowing those different things, just in case, definitely worthwhile. These things happen. You would be amazed. So that's all I had to say today. I really hope it's helpful. And if nothing else, is just to say to you, I am human. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all face these crises that we didn't expect, that we didn't plan for, where everything, this lovely plan just goes absolutely wrong. I've had many of them. My cover design company for my first book went bust, and that I had stuff lined up with them, that was a thing. I've had issues around sort of how to digitize the images and learning how to do that, and problems doing it. I've had, you know, print issues. I've had weird editing problems crop up, you know, things that I plan not go. It's a whole thing. So it happens. We all face these problems. Just know all your options, do your research, know what you can do, take a breath, and make sure you've got your people, which obviously for me, I have an indie author group. I also have my husband to kind of, he is that logical guy. He's just like, look, let's plan it out. What are your options? Write them down. So yeah, just, you know, it's you can get through it, and we all have these anxieties and these panics, but you can get through it. So as I say, next week I'm going to do a video about Book Vault and some weighing up, comparing them with other companies and explaining what they offer. But until then, I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.